I came to the O'odham reservation around 5 years ago. I was floored by the beauty of this place. A friend and I camped in the Babukivadi wilderness, very much aware we were in lands considered to be sacred by the O'odham nation. There was a sense of place, walking among ancient beings in a saguaro forest was like being in a dreamscape. Yet these ancient beings stood as real and alive as ever. We camped, hiked, and stargazed, and took in the breath of this enchanting place. We listened and witnessed the nighttime bustling with life. Not long ago, I read the devastating updates of the wall's construction through this place. My heart sank as I peered through pictures of severed saguaro cactus. I cried. I needed to go back. I needed to see and feel this in person. I had planned to meet with a reporter from the Center for Biological Diversity who had been diligently reporting the impacts of the wall's construction. He informed me that there would be a stand-in protest led by the O'odham people. Upon arriving, my heart swelled at the sight of people already lined up with signs in support. One woman held a sign which read, "Honk if you're humane." Encouragingly, the rally received lots of support from drivers passing through. While there, I asked a couple of people if they would speak to me about the wall.
My name is Angel Castillo, and I'm from Manager's Dam, Artichoke community from Gavois district.
Have you actually seen the construction? Have you been to the actual border?
Yeah, we've seen the construction that's going on, and it's not right that they're doing what they're doing. Especially on Monument Hill, because of the burial grounds that are there, they actually uprooted bones and potteries and stuff like that, and it's very disturbing.
Yeah.
Very.
So how does it feel when you go over there?
It's sad. It's so sad. It's if you understand it a lot more, it makes you want to cry.
I feel it just for the land itself.
Yeah.
Next, I spoke with another native to the region, a young, passionate, and very sincere public speaker.
My name is Victor Garcia. I've lived in Aho for about 10 years now, and I've seen the structures being built in Aho, all the flocking of snowbirds, the accumulation of the Border Patrol building their houses, their corporations getting more defined in Aho, making more of a presence, and there's a build-up, and they've also now have made a command center here in Y, where we're protesting as of right now. And to make presence near that center, it would be making presence near the command center of the Border Patrol. But they've developed houses for their own base of operations, as well as housing Border Patrol agents.
So they've definitely moved into the area.
Yeah, they have accumulated themselves since 9/11, and they've made that their intent on the attack on terrorism, and that's their reasoning in which they've succeeded in beefing up their security and surveillance over our lands and making a lot of havoc and create
Can you talk about the wall itself, the construction of it? Have you seen the construction taking place?
Yeah, they've now initiated themselves to destroy our sacred mountain, and it's been heart-wrenching in like learning about it, seeing its progression of destruction and disassociation with what we hold sacred. And in the span of time where Trump wanted to build his wall before the elections, he made it clear that he was going to build it, and so now he's, sporadically making this effort to build and section off the lands, the animals, the plants, people.
So what does it make you feel to see the construction happening and they're actually digging up sacred sites?
Yeah, they have no disregard for the people and what it means to be sacred. They've desecrated over and over again, and it's a continuation of genocide against the people here. And for allowing this to go as far as it's gone, it's been a build-up. The construction crews, have moved into Aho and taken up housing, and it's overpopulated now. And a lot of people can't find houses that are available because they're being held up by construction crews, as well as all the inns, the apartments, all housing that was available is now taken up by the construction workers.
After the rally, I visited the construction site that was situated within the Organ Pipe National Monument. Already, the violation is apparent. Before, when I had seen the photos of the wall's destruction, I was moved to tears. This time, standing before the enormous symbol of hate and disregard, made up of steel beams and concrete, I couldn't cry. My tears were trapped. Instead, an anger sat with me, simmering in the sheer confusion of what my eyes were seeing. I had no words of worth. In the O'odham language, there is no word for wall. I stood, along with some others, absolutely perplexed. We spoke a little about Memorial Hill, the sacred burial site directly on what is considered the border, which could be seen atop a mountain. The site had been plowed through, where a part of the wall will be erected. I found a butchered saguaro segment, in which I felt compelled to lie beside. Taken aback by the surrealness of the reality. This, happening within my lifetime, it was nightmarish. Later, I asked the reporter who I had planned to meet some questions about what he's witnessed during his visits to this site.
My name is Laiken Jordahl. I work with the Center for Biological Diversity, fighting border wall construction every step of the process. We filed more than half a dozen lawsuits opposing wall construction. We've organized massive 1,000-person rallies in border communities, actually at the site of wall construction in different states. And I have been most recently just bearing witness and documenting the devastation that we're seeing as a result of wall construction in Organ Pipe and the San Bernardino National Wildlife Refuge and all across the border. I actually used to work for the Park Service at Organ Pipe. Organ Pipe is the place that I fell in love with the Sonoran Desert. I was so blown away by the beauty, the biodiversity, just how stunning the place is. And that was about 3 years ago when Trump took office. I left the Park Service because I didn't want to sit idly by and watch these walls be built. I wanted to speak out and actively advocate against this travesty, because it is just such a disaster for the environment on so many levels. So in the last 6 months or so, I've been visiting Organ Pipe every week to film construction crews. I've seen cactuses chopped up and bulldozed. I've seen groundwater be sucked out of the ground to turn into concrete for the wall. And most recently, we've actually seen the usage of explosives on Monument Hill. Border Patrol is blasting a path across the hill in order to build the wall. And this hill is a sacred site to the O'odham people. There are known burial grounds on this hill, and the Department of Homeland Security has waived every relevant law that protect Native American graves, cultural sites, and the environment. So what we're seeing is absolutely disgraceful. The Trump administration is quite literally blowing up a mountain in order to build the border wall in a national monument, in designated wilderness, in a UNESCO biosphere reserve. This would all be hard to believe if it wasn't happening. And we're just seeing so much destruction happening so fast. To build the wall through Oregon Pipe and across Arizona, the administration has waived more than 41 different laws. So all of this work, all of this construction is happening outside of the scope of law and order. And as a result, we don't know how much damage they're inflicting. None of the requisite environmental studies have been done before they broke ground. The indigenous tribes like the Tohono O'odham have not been consulted. And of course, the recommendations from environmentalists, from groups like ours, and from the Park Service itself have not been taken into account for this project. So what we're seeing is absolutely devastating. We're extremely concerned about the impact that wall construction will have on Quito Baquito Spring. Quito Baquito is this miraculous desert oasis. It's this stunningly beautiful aquatic habitat in the hottest and driest desert in the country. It is just miraculous. You can feel the moisture in the air when you arrive. It almost feels like a dream. Quito Baquito is a sacred site to the O'odham. It's still used for ceremonial purposes to this day. And it has 16,000 years of recorded human history. There have been artifacts found at Quito Baquito that date back 16,000 years, which is an incredibly long archaeological record. The Springs is also home to two federally listed endangered species that don't live anywhere else in the country: the Quito Baquito pupfish and the Sonoyta mud turtle. We are extremely concerned that the Department of Homeland Security's reckless groundwater pumping for the border wall could deplete the spring and diminish the aquifer and actually end up destroying the spring altogether. Every time I visit the park, every time I walk up to that spring, I am so fearful that I'll walk up and find the spring empty. I'll walk up to the smell of death, of rotting pupfish and turtle carcasses. And every time I visited in recent weeks, the water level at the spring has looked lower. You can almost see the bathtub ring around this pond, which is extremely unsettling. The chairman of the Tohono O'odham tribe has repeatedly called for the protection of this place. He has called for a cessation of all ground disturbing activities to protect the archaeological history of this area. And instead of listening to these pleas for protection, the Department of Homeland Security went ahead and bulldozed the entire area at the border just south of the spring. We know that there are archaeological and cultural resources in this area, and DHS quite literally plowed over all of those resources. The Trump administration is operating with total disrespect. They are actively desecrating sacred sites, and they are quite literally threatening to push the only habitat for these two endangered species off the face of the planet. They could wipe out these species altogether. And it's just unbelievable. I don't know what right they think they have to do such a thing. I think most people, when they think of the border, imagine some sort of desolate desert sand dunes, not a ton of life, but that could not be further from the truth. The border, and especially at Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, it's so full of biodiversity, of incredible plants and animals. There are species that don't live anywhere else in the country. I think the general public needs to be aware of just the beauty and the richness and just the striking beauty of the Sonoran Desert. And when we think about the border, when we think about border wall construction, we have to consider the incredible wildlife, the thousands of years of natural and cultural history, and we have to talk about this place as a landscape. This is the most biodiverse region in all of North America, and I think to really convey to people the importance of this bioregion, we have to talk about the incredible species of wildlife that are here. Everyone needs to share this information. People need to reach out to their members of Congress and demand that they stop wall construction right now. And of course, we just can't sit idly by and let this happen. What we're seeing is the destruction, the erasure of natural and cultural history. This is just the most recent iteration of colonial violence against indigenous people, and total recklessness that is threatening to push endangered species into extinction. The wall is an environmental catastrophe, and it needs to be talked about as such.
While I didn't have time to visit the Quito Springs, I've had many opportunities to see naturally occurring desert springs throughout the Southwest. They are treasures utilized by incredibly unique species and are invaluable. The Sonoran Desert is located within the most biodiverse region in the country. In fact, our borderlands from the Pacific coast to the Gulf of Mexico may arguably be the most unique span of diversity of the United States. A sacred region that ought to be shared. Not only the Sonoran Desert, but the borderlands themselves could be considered an exceptional monument of natural diversity. This is how I think the borderlands deserve to be regarded, recognized by their enormous social, cultural, wildlife, and plant diversity. My wish for the borderlands is that this recognition could be made apparent. A wall represents so much more than just the division of people. A wall is the division of all of our roots. Whether you are from this region or not, it doesn't matter. A wall through nature's systems is a devastating blow to each and every one of us. This is our land, our earth. I wish for the day that it is our mission by default that we recognize this fact and that we all act as stewards of Gaia, which I think is at the heart of our true humanity. This is Wild Roots. Thanks for listening.